All right, welcome everybody to the August 11th Caroline Town Board meeting, which is a hybrid meeting, as many of you know. So this is being recorded and will be posted to the town website. So I guess I will go ahead and there are three of us in the town hall here, but I will start the meeting with a pledge to the flag. So. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. All right, and I'll open the meeting with opportunity for privilege of the floor. Anybody wishes to address the board? And I'm looking for any kind of waving on the screen, or for some reason Barry popped up as the featured speaker, even though I think he's pretty quiet right now. I don't know why that's happening, but we're watching you, Barry. I don't see any.
Well, you can keep watching, but I'm right here and I'm muted for now.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks, everybody. So I'll go ahead and start the meeting. So I guess I will note that Susan Barr is here to join us for a discussion of the court grant. So if it's acceptable to the board, I suggest we go to that agenda item. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Welcome, Susan. Are you there?
Yeah, so
Susan, I can share the screen and put your court grant on the screen if you'd like.
so just to start, you know, the court is the last bastion of formality in our country and in the world. Judges still wear robes. In England, they still wear white wigs. There's rules about how we address each other in court, and those rules apply to me whenever I'm in a capacity, in the judiciary capacity. So you know, we've been trying very hard on our end to use your titles and your surnames, and I ask that you do that in response.
I really planned for that detour. Hi.
Oops.
Yeah.
As long as you didn't go speeding down Buffalo Road.
You had quite a sign there, my friend.
It's not me.
I figured.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Okay. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, so Supervisor, it's Judge Barr, and it is incumbent on me to insist on the dignity of the court. It's actually a requirement of my job.
Excuse me? I didn't hear that.
I need to insist on dignity. It's a requirement of my job. You have to address me as Judge Barr, and first names are really not appropriate because we're in a formal town setting here.
Well, I meant it with all due respect. So Judge Barr, go ahead.
I don't really have a presentation. I'm here to answer questions. I mean,
Okay.
Nobody asked me to make a presentation.
Okay. So I will open the floor for questions from the board. I've shared the screen with the document that we were provided, which is the court grant, the security system application that you all have worked up. So I guess, does anybody want to offer any questions? So Judge Barr, I will just say that as you saw the other day in the email that I shared, I did try to get some clarification from the court system on some of these things. And So it's pretty clear to, unless I misunderstand, this is an application for infrastructure for a shared town space. So it seems like that needs to be part of the part of your application. And what the person that I spoke with, recommended some sort of estimate of proportional use of shared spaces. So I just offered that as a constructive measure for your grant that the court system seems to be looking for. I will also share with you that they recommended that you provide a cover letter that provides a rationale for need for your particular court. So based on how busy it is and whether there've been any security incidents or whatever. So that's one thing that he said would be helpful. And as I also noted in the email, I was interested in, so I understand that when the court's in session, the, the security system has to be private to the court, but at other times, it seems like it would be prudent for the town to be able to use it as a security system, as a monitoring system. So I'm,
Your document is not sharing, right?
do I need to do something? What?
The file's over, but the document's
It's
not.
not shared.
Oh, is it not shared? Okay, it says I'm screen sharing. Oh,
You are, but you're screen sharing just the image of the file and not the actual document.
okay, we're good now?
Not yet.
Okay. So anyway, I lost what I was saying. So
Letter of need, and
Cover
then the
letter.
shared, first it was a cover letter, then it was, just the shared need if the town was using.
oh, right. And
Security.
so, yeah, it seems like it would be good if we could integrate into that technology a way that the user could be changed during the week or whatever. I at least, I thought that was worth a discussion or consideration. And so that was a question I had. It may or may not be possible, but that was a question I had. I think we had questions about, and I think you addressed some of those by email, but exactly how the security system would work when the court's not in session and how we would gain access. And so you said that there were key fobs that each of us would have, I think. So, and then the other minor detail that I will note is that the diagram notes the small conference room as the court records room. So that, that's a shared space, that's a town meeting room that I think needs to be, here's the diagram you made, which is good. So I think that should be clarified. What else? I think those are the main comments I had. I thought it would be nice to, maybe do a walkthrough over here and think about it, but I realize that you guys have spent a lot of work on this. So I'm not suggesting of, recreating the whole thing, but just making sure we understand it well and that we have all of the opportunities and the issues identified and worked out. So those are my comments. I don't know if anybody else has any.
Still not viewing.
What's happening?
Nobody can see it. It's
Nobody can see us.
You just see one line.
Yep, it's just a line.
Okay, hang on.
Mark,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Gosh darn it.
That's all I can see.
I'm gonna stop screen sharing because I don't think we really need to. Maybe that'll help. Is that better?
Now we can see just the participants.
Great picture, John.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. And I have a chat which is probably telling me we can't see you. Yeah.
So should I just start to answer those?
Sure, that'd be fine.
So what is your anticipated use of the system?
Well, it would be for, security at the town hall. We've talked about this in the past. So that would be the anticipated use, so that, if anything happened, we would have a record of it, and so on.
Yeah, well, that's what I anticipate. So there are 2 panic buttons that are available to the court. And when they were installed,
Mhm.
which is more than 6 years ago, I did not anticipate using them. And we haven't, but they're there. And if anyone wants to go hit the panic button and call the police, you're all welcome to use the button. It's not exclusive to the court, but it's located, there was one located under the bench, and I think there's one at the clerk's station. And so that was something that was installed that was intended for the court, but is not exclusive to the court. And in my opinion, it's just kind of this background thing that we have. I was alone in court on Monday. The clerk had to go to a funeral, and I didn't panic. I just ran court alone. It was fine. The same is true with this security system. I just think it's going to run in the background, and I cannot think when is the last time something happened in the room from the court half that we would have needed to review tapes. I've had death threats in court, but there's always a police officer there, and these cameras don't catch any audio, so it wouldn't note that. I suppose if someone picked up a chair and threw it at me, then we would have clear record of that, but there would be other people in the room. So this is just kind of a background thing that we don't anticipate using. And the only use we really think is that we're trying to set up the front door. So we're trying to figure out a way to have more access to the public, even when the clerk is alone. And that's the real big use. We have on occasion, so it's incumbent on me to try to maintain peace in the court. And when there's 2 litigants that seem to be very upset, I'm supposed to direct them to leave separately. We're trying to get one to leave the parking lot, but we have had fights in the parking lot that we've stood at the door and tried to decide if we should call the police, but they've left pretty fast. So we do anticipate using the camera out in the parking lot, but again, that's like once a year. It's not really a big use. So I think this is just there because we've been asked to install it on our security inspection. And it's something that the state is willing to pay for, and it's security cameras accomplish 2 things. One is that when people see the cameras, they behave better. And secondly, if they do have poor behavior, then we have it on record. But again, I mean, Judge Phoenix said 44 years, nothing's occurred in the Carolina Town Hall. So I just think this is running in the background. So of course, if you have something occurring, and again, if someone, comes in with a lead pipe and tries to attack the supervisor, of course you'll have access to the tapes. I think that's pretty simple.
May I ask a question? And I apologize, I might be missing something. I hear you, Judge Barr, when you say that this is something that's going to be like a background. I think you said you don't anticipate using it at all, which is wonderful in terms of what, the confrontations might be where it would be useful. So I'm glad to hear that. At the same time, given that what we're talking about is the budget for this, and I recognize it's the grant, but my understanding is that if the grant doesn't go through, then we need to still provide funding. I guess I'm hoping you can help me understand the like necessity if it's something that we're not anticipating using, you know, it's like, it's a little bit tricky there for me.
There's a lot of security in place right now that is, it's just running. There's cameras, security cameras running all the time. Fountain Manor has security cameras. They're more and more present in our lives. I can't really tell you. The court system is asking that people install these and they're paying for it. And this is a high priority from the state's point of view. And it's already 6th district, who also has to sign off it, is also aware that this is coming up. So I don't anticipate that this will not be funded.
Okay, but it's a requirement now or a recommendation from the districts?
We got in our security check, we failed because we didn't have cameras, and I don't know when they're coming back, and I don't know what that means. But I think we are the only court in the county that does not at this time have security cameras.
Well, that's significant, so thanks for sharing that.
Mark?
Kim, go ahead.
Judge Barr, I first wanted to say that I know that there has been some expression of impatience with us for trying to clarify these facts. And I learned today in an email from you that apparently you walked through this with John Fresha. And I want you to understand that we didn't receive the entire purview. So one of the questions that I have that I think I put in an email to you is I was just wondering if you could explain to us how the locking system will work when court is not in session. In other words, is it just dismantled, or who's in control who gets into the building? This is just the kind of thing that would be helpful for us to know.
Right, so they will replace the current lock on the outer door with an electronic lock. And the purpose of the electronic lock is it works with the video camera buzzer. So someone can buzz the clerk and she can talk to that person and watch them on video and determine whether or not to let them in, and then let them in electronically. And so it's for the buzzer. That's what it's for. So the unfortunate part of this is that those of us who have a key now have to have 2 keys, because we'll have a fob for the outer door and then the key for the next door. And the clerk asked could we stop locking the next door, but I actually think it's a plus that, for example, the historian, who right now has a key that opens both those doors, she would only have the key to the outer door and not to the next door, which she doesn't need. There's no need for her to have a key to enter the large room there. So it would be a bit of an annoyance, but everyone who currently has a key would have the fob, and everyone who currently has access would continue to have access.
But thank you. But what I don't understand is how the entrance buzzer will work when the clerk is not.
Oh, no, if you have a fob, you just get in.
What about for the public? Are you?
So if we unlock the door, so the door is unlocked right now on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
So we have that bar that we've been having problems with. But anyway, we unlock the door on Mondays and Tuesdays, and people open the door and enter. On Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, people are working in the court, but the door is locked, and there's really no access unless you come bang on the window and try to get attention. So this will give the public, and we haven't actually thought this through yet and thought about how we're going to advertise it. Right now we say we're open by appointment on Wednesday and Thursday, but then we anticipate being able to say we're open by appointment, and you can call us from the parking lot and you can buzz the door and we'll talk to you. So it just increases access for people. We're finding that people under 40 don't come to court anymore. They do everything online. They've got it all figured out, but other people really enjoy coming to court, or they have a compelling story and they really need to come in. So from your point of view, there's no difference. Sometimes the door is unlocked because we're in there and we've unlocked it. Sometimes it's locked. If it's locked, your fob will open it. except for the annoyance that you have to have 2 keys. We all have to have 2 keys now.
And I guess that was very helpful. I mean, this is exactly the kind of context we're just wondering about. And I guess the other question that Mark brought up is the status of the town conference room in relationship to this, which I understand apparently is going to have a camera in it. Is that true?
No, there's no camera there. There's no need for a camera there. And I'm happy to change the name on the little map.
That was just unclear. So thanks. That's really helpful.
Thanks, Tim. Any other questions for Judge Barr?
No, that's super helpful.
Helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad to know like it's best practice and that's what's considered and that's it. I mean, there's keys and shared spaces to work out, but to me, it just seems like, yeah, this is.
Yeah, and if there's an incident in the room that you need to see tapes, the tapes will be there.
Right. Yeah.
Great.
And Judge Barr, just to reiterate, the court administrator recommended this security system and you failed an inspection report, or it was a debited demerit. I mean, when I hear you, I think of the milk inspector, you know, that kind of comes in and says, well, you know, this is okay and this is okay, but you really ought to do this.
Right.
And if you don't, you know, it's not, you're just kind of flaunting the administrator or the inspector or whatever.
Well, it's complicated because if we request, I mean, in my mind, if we request it and do all the paperwork and we don't get town support, then the problem is not with the court. I mean, I'm just being honest. If we request it and we do the paperwork and the town and the state is funding it, it would be odd indeed if you declined.
Correct.
I mean, Judge Barr, I just think we should be clear that there's never been a question of us feeling like we should decline this. What we just wanted to do is clarify everything. And I think one of the things in my mind that still will need resolved before you can submit the grant is the cost sharing part, which apparently the office of the court requires. So that's something that it sounds like will really have to be hammered out.
Yeah, I'm confused by that because I didn't talk to Albany, I talked to Binghamton, and this is a court requirement. We're setting it up in the court, and I know the building has other uses, but the purpose of it is the court. And it's kind of a semantics issue. The court is installing this because for court security, and so it should be 100% funded. And if you keep emphasizing that it's co-used, then I think you're offering to pay for half.
Well, we're not emphasizing it. We're just responding to instructions that we were given.
Yeah,
So,
well, I'll talk to Judge Keen's office again. You know, we have to go through Judge Keen, and I can call the JCAP office and clarify that. But my understanding is we're going to ask for the money. They're going to give us 100%. And that's what Judge Keen's office thinks is going to happen.
Far out.
That'd be great.
Okay, very good.
thank you very much for joining us. It was very helpful.
Okay.
But I think it's something that we should support.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. All right.
Do you want gallery more?
Should I do
Do you want
gallery?
or which do you
Would you
want?
like that? Good.
Well, let's see who.
I don't mind that. Second. See how that works. We can always switch back. All right, thanks, everybody. So I will move on to my supervisor's report that I shared with you yesterday. So the let's see, so we did get a notice of a snowmobile trail improvements from the county there's a county-wide snowmobile trail. So Scott Doyle provided that. I forwarded that to you so you can see the map and the documents there. The streetlights. So I did meet with Mark Runke from NIPA here at the town hall to discuss what we're going to do about all the streetlight outages, and with the hold up on the streetlight installation because of the cellular node bottleneck. And so he suggested that we just move it for the streetlights that are out. They're going to go ahead and replace, install the LEDs, and those will be controlled by solar sensors. So, and that'll be a temporary measure until this other cellular node thing arrives. So I did go out and document the outages and provided those to Mr. Runke. And so he forwarded that to the contractor. And so I will update you from our conversation at the town hall. He thought that they should be able to get this work done fairly soon, but that's the most I'm going to say, because I don't want to promise too much, and it's I've been waiting for this to happen. So, but I am going to stay in touch with them, and I'll let you know as things develop. Budget work has started. The budget requests are out. The stair glide is I confirmed with NYMER, our insurer, the question of whether we needed residential or we could use a residential unit or commercial. And they were very clear that we should use the commercial unit, have it installed professionally. And he gave me a short laundry list of certificates of insurance and hold harmless agreements. So all of that is in process. And so we should, and including a revised proposal from Penn York. So that's underway. We just went through the grant proposal from the justices, so I'm not going to belabor that. I met with the Caroline Fire Departments, had a very good meeting right here to discuss the issues that we all know about. Their issues with retention, recruitment, and how they can looking for solutions. So that was a really positive meeting, and they're going to meet again soon to continue the discussion. So, and related to that, Rick Morgan, he had previously sent myself and Bobby a proposal for assistance with the dry hydrant installation. And we had previously budgeted money to support engineering work on dry hydrants. So and the way they're looking at this is these dry hydrants would be used by all 3 departments in fire emergencies. So it's sort of a town-wide thing. So, yeah, so that it maybe, I think we should think about this for next year's budgeting and keeping some money in there to support that kind of thing. So, I'll defer to Bobby about, I know they asked about installation of driveway culverts for access at the dry hydrants. A dry hydrant is a hydrant at a pond that's normally dry when they're not pumping from it. So, and I told them that I thought typically the highway department would install a culvert for driveway access. So Bob can follow up or whatever on that. Yeah, the next item I put on the agenda was and Bob will probably have more to say about this, but there has been concern from a couple of residents about traffic on Bald Hill Road and due to the Central Chapel Road construction. So Bob's been working on that. A big sign went up today to notify people to be careful. And I think that's a work in progress. And then we received that memo that I shared with you from Katie Borgella about the Southern Tier Network study. I am interested in learning more about that. What I read from that memo is that they decided, that it wasn't there weren't enough underserved households based on the analysis that they did, was based on this federal block federal block identification. So I'm interested in learning more, because in addition to providing service to unserved and underserved households, the middle mile thing also, it would be a municipally owned thing that would increase competition. And I'm not an expert on it, but the idea was, as Irene explained in last year, is that it would help control costs to consumers, because you would have more ISPs competing. So, coincident with this, Lee Hafley called me a couple times, and we had discussions. And as you saw in Katie's email, they're putting in a grant that would include Hafley for build out in Caroline, Newfield, this part of the county. And I think Lee is also developing a separate grant proposal. So, and then the final thing that I'll mention is that I did just the other day receive finally paperwork earlier in the year. You probably remember we did some archaeological work to get the documentation for a past project on Old 600. There were apparently languishing grant funds that we hadn't been recovered. So that final paperwork came, and we signed it and returned it a couple days ago. So hopefully that will be coming soon. Any questions? That's all I have.
The snowmobiles have, where the trails cross, do they have the right to ride on the local roads? Like the reestablished trails that goes across 79, comes up there, and then do they have a right to, like one of the trails, do they have a right to ride on Level Green Road?
My understanding is they have right to ride on every road.
Every
The
road,
snowmobiles do,
snowmobiles,
as in contrast to the ATVs.
seems bizarre.
Yes,
Well, we do have a snowmobile law, local law. So we should look at that and see what it
But it
says.
just, yeah, I think, just, that's what I'm
it's a
kind
very
of getting.
inconsistent, yes, no, I know exactly what
That's
you're
all I'm
saying.
trying to just point that out. It just seems like, well, wait a second, snowmobiles can use
I'm
without,
gonna check, but they can, because I looked this up.
without being licensed, insured, well, whatever.
Okay,
It's just more a point of comment, I guess, than a question probably.
Mark,
yes.
can I ask, are you aware of just what the range of the kind of scale we're talking for the dry hydrant, but financial needs, just roughly out of curiosity?
I didn't catch all that, Tim. Did you say the financial?
I'm wondering how much the dry hydrants would be budgeted for potentially, just a ballpark figure. I'm just curious.
Sure. I think we budgeted about 10,000 in this line, and I think the ballpark number that we had was for engineering for any particular hydrant would be about $2,500. So I think that was the idea.
So that'd be 10,000 per dry hydrant.
No, 2,500 per dry hydrant for engineering costs only.
For engineering costs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
The rest, I don't know. The rest, I don't know.
because I looked into it a few years ago, and it was around $10,000 to do one, engineering, construction,
Oh, really? Okay,
everything.
that's great.
I know
I'd
somebody-
be interested
I know somebody
in
has a
your
big problem
information.
with the road,
Yeah.
so.
Tim, I think, a lot of these hydrants probably could be done reasonably inexpensive, just depending on location.
Yeah, I was just curious, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff involved, but there's really not a lot involved. It's a pipe that basically runs uphill.
Right.
And it has a suction connection and it doesn't pull water uphill until there's vacuum to it. So
Right.
if installed correctly, they work, they work great. If you install it wrong, water runs downhill. So I have talked with Rick from Speedsville,
I think,
and I'm trying to get some numbers around, for him. But I think we could probably do maybe even multiple locations for that kind of money.
that'd be great. I think it's really important to do. And finally, to have, to have a project that all three fire departments want to collaborate on is really a good opening.
Great, thanks, Bob. Any other comments or questions? Great, okay. Thank you. Town clerk's report.
Great. Fees collected in July are 42 dog licenses, 1 fishing license, and I collected fees for 5 building permits. Total collected was $1685. A check was written to the supervisor on August 3rd. And now I can sell hunting licenses. So all the hunters can stop by the clerk's office and I can do that. That's all.
Great.
Finally,
Finally.
Great, thank you. That sounds great. Highway superintendent.
All right. I'll try to make it short. Can't guarantee anything. We did a bunch of oil and stone about a week and a half ago. We did Level Green, Blackman Hill, parts of Old Level Green. Have gotten a lot of positive feedback with that. We'll be moving into paving this week. We've tied on to a county project on Beesmer Road, so we'll be paving Wood Lane on Friday. And then we will be doing some more paving, in the near future. Just waiting for some scheduled openings. We've opened up for new applications for employment. And it's been a struggle. We've had, this posting listed multiple times over and over. We finally did get an applicant that, he fit the mold, and we hired him just the other day, which has been great. It's been 2 days and it's already been, a night and day difference with the extra hands. Moving on to Bald Hill. With this bridge detour, the phone lines in my office are literally smoking. The phone is ringing off the hook nonstop. A lot having to do with traffic over Bald Hill. To be clear, Bald Hill is not a posted detour. It's strictly, it's a road if you know it's there. People tell their friends it's there. It turns into the new, local shortcut, so everybody doesn't have to take the long way around. There has been some emails and some talk of, the town being put on notice that Bald Hill is unsafe to drive on. So I took this, extremely serious. We've kind of gone above and beyond. I don't know if there's ever been a dirt road in the history of Caroline that has a billboard that belongs on Route 81, but it is now at the bottom of Bald Hill and White Church Road. that says in great big LED lights that says single lane ahead, share the road. Couldn't find a more blunt way to put it. Hopefully that is working. And we've also, had some complaints of dust, with it being a dirt road. We've addressed those. And we'll continue to just put that on a schedule to keep the dust down. And from what I've heard, it has been working. So if anything, comes about with this whole, notice of unsafe road conditions, that's where we're at. I made some phone calls to the county and to Silverline, who was doing the bridge, to improve some detour signs. That's all happened. There is some more signage that will be coming shortly, as it's signs they had to order. So hopefully that kind of fades away, once everybody realizes and gets over the anger of having to take the long loop around. It's going to be a long time. I mean, it's scheduled to be out for 3 months. So, hopefully within a few weeks, everything kind of settles down and it's not such a big deal. I've talked with, Rick Morgan with Speedsville about the potential dry hydrant on McGrath Road. Going to get some numbers around for him. And with that, we'll also kind of keep our ears open for any other, potential volunteer sites or I'll get with them and see if there's any other sections of town that, that really don't have anything and it would benefit to have one at a certain section of town. So, we'll know more on that kind of moving forward and on that project. Back to Bald Hill. I did get a phone call and I'm kind of playing phone tag. As you all know, we had a problem with, Spectrum running underground lines on Bald Hill. And that was all supposed to be taken care of. I did get a phone call asking to do some underground work on Grove School Road. And, moving forward, my stance on that, and I know this tower has to be done, but Spectrum has left Bald Hill, kind of where they pulled out of the job. It's left that way. Some things were supposed to be pulled out, things were supposed to be fixed, and they're not fixed yet. So I'm not holding them hostage, but I'm going to hold them accountable to take care of Bald Hill before we start some underground work on Grove School Road. Otherwise, it's going to be forgotten about and it'll be gone.
Did they ask to post a bond when they approach you about work like that, so that if they don't just walk away, then you got some money to hold back from them? Or is that
Yeah, I mean, it's been talked about, and I'm not sure how much of that's been done in the past. But it has, it has been talked about. And potentially, the Grove School Road project was supposed to be all overhead. So I'm not exactly sure why some of it has to be underground at this point, but I'll learn that, hopefully in the next few days. And
to get the wires up in the air?
yeah, I mean, most of Grove School will be, it will be aerial. I didn't get the exact place where they want to go underground, but I know new poles have already been set, by NYSEG. NYSEG kind of supersized a few poles to get some wires up.
I just know there's that one spot about 2/3 of the way up where there's a wire that goes across the road that can't be, I'm surprised a snowplow with load of cinders fits under it.
To be honest, it really doesn't. We level the load with that wire most of the time. That wire actually has been moved up. They took that pole from a 30-footer to a 50-footer.
Okay,
So-
good.
So that line is higher. That's pretty much all I have for mine. I did get a phone call. It looks like we will potentially take delivery of the new truck early. All that being New truck sales are crazy. They're right through the roof. Everything's backlogged. Nobody can get trucks. We just happen to, get that deal on that truck already being built. So Viking is sitting with a shop with no trucks other than ours. So it worked out good for us. So we'll potentially take early delivery of that. That brings pretty much it. I have a, I want to bring up something that we've talked about in the past. And it's mentioned tonight, kind of the snowmobile versus the ATV. I think it's something that's been brought up, numerous times about the ATV. But there's never been a definitive answer on the yes or no. Again, we let snowmobiles ride on these same town roads. It does seem funny that one's allowed to and one's not. That's just kind of a question that I have, going forward. I have a couple other small ones, but I think they can wait until those topics get brought up.
Hey, Bob, I wanted to circle back to just quickly to Bald Hill. I know you and I talked about, you mentioned a couple things. I was going to see if these things are in your planning or reasonable remedies for the concerns there. One of them, you mentioned posting a weight limit sign. And then the other one, and somebody did mention to me, maybe it was you, I can't remember who mentioned it to me, that an 18-wheeler went down Bald Hill within the last couple days. So that's pretty insane. And then the other question I had was about whether we could post a sign right there at the bottom of Grove School at Central Chapel that just said local traffic only, or just close off that route to through traffic somehow. Any thoughts on those things?
So closing it off to through traffic, to be honest, doesn't seem reasonable to me. Everybody has a right to drive town roads. We can't pick and choose who drives them as much as we'd like to. I think some signage will help. To be honest, we did try the no through traffic for a short time, and it made the problem worse. We then had people extremely mad on Grove School Road who drove even faster down the hill than they drove up. It was kind of a short-lived trial and error. We took them back down. And then, with the signs are great, but you got to read them. Everybody has to read the billboard at the bottom of the hill. They can't miss it.
That is for sure.
But everybody that's traveling it knows it's there. So when the sign says no through traffic, it's no through traffic for everybody else, not me. I think some traffic has already slowed down on the road. I try to travel it multiple times a day. With the calls of big trucks, going up Bald Hill. There's also a house being built on Grove School. I followed a couple of those trucks. They're actually going there. They're doing work there. These guys have a dump site, over White Church Coddington Way. And it seems crazy that they would go down Bald Hill. But trucks travel Braley Hill every day. And we don't really think twice about it, but it's the same dirt road. It's people are going to travel it. It's just getting them roped down and not driving 60 miles an hour, and giving everybody a little bit of space and a little common courtesy would go a long ways. I think the common courtesy would probably solve 3/4 of the problem on Bald Hill. And moving forward, hopefully we can teach everybody a little bit of common courtesy and, in this problem kind of fade away.
Pass.
Yeah, I did go
What
home.
is the actual extent of the problem, Mark? I mean, I guess, Bob, I think I agree with you 100%, Bobby, and I'm not clear on what the, is this like one complaint that is very noisy, or do we really have, like, if you're talking about a safety concern, I was gonna ask before you asked your question, what,
So-
who did the safety accusation come from, I think is important to know. I mean, I don't consider that road to be unsafe. I don't know where that came from.
It came from a resident, on Bald Hill.
Right.
And again, I have, kind of some mixed feelings, about it. And I don't know if I really want to voice them, but there is an alternative route to Bald Hill. And if you don't feel Bald Hill is safe, you really shouldn't travel it. Take the detour that everybody else is taking. But we're doing what we can do to make it better. But the complaint was that the road narrows down to, a single lane and 2 cars can't pass. It's a small section of the road. There's a little bit of a visual, restraint there. That's why, I've acquired the billboard, just kind of letting people know ahead of time. But we are going to doctor some signs up and make them stand out a little bit more. In the rest of Bald Hill, honestly, 2 cars can drive by one another and it's really not a problem. It just into that narrow section.
Thank you. I think it's important to clarify that the road is not unsafe. And, so, I mean, I think it's fine that there was a suggestion that it was unsafe, but I just want to really support what Bob is saying. That
Right.
This is, I don't want it to be publicly stated that this is like an unsafe road. It's a road that's there, it's well maintained, there's nothing wrong with the road.
Yeah.
And now there's a concern based on usage of the road, and that to me is a different concern than safety.
Right, and it's been said that, well, now the road has, rumble strips in it. Every one of our dirt roads in town gets a rumble strip. We're constantly grading them. It's a never ending battle. It's just something that we have to deal with. This detour, it's a headache to everybody, but it is truly a headache, to the highway department is we have to put more time and effort into a road that wasn't necessarily a highway before, but is a road with increased traffic. But it is what it is. And in the end, we'll all have a nice bridge and things will be back to normal. It's just everybody kind of, sticking together for just a little bit and work with each other, and it'll be gone before we know it.
Mhm.
Thanks, Bob.
So I did go home that way tonight, Bob, and I did notice that the road was in, you could tell it was all wetted down in really nice shape and stuff. And I did notice the big sign. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, the plan is when people quit looking at that sign, we're going to change the message. So we'll change it to something else and hopefully they'll look at it again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But that's kind of thanks to the county. The county did that to kind of help us out. As this whole thing is a county project, it's not a town project. And, the town's kind of caught, 90% of the slack over this is everybody thinks it's us building this bridge, and it's really the county highway department.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Yeah,
Bob, did we get that speed,
your speed is.
your speed is sign,
So we do have it. We're actually trying to retrofit it on a trailer. The last couple days have been extremely busy, so we haven't really, between some new training and stuff like that, we just haven't had the extra hands to get that done. But it's on the schedule for sure.
Great. Great, thanks, Bob.
let's see. Bob, I was delivered a petition yesterday, from the residents on Landon Road requesting the speed limit be reduced to 35 miles an hour or less. I handed it to Jesse today. And so I, just so you're aware that this petition was delivered to me and I handed it off to Jesse.
Okay. We'll deal with it. That's right, yep. Great. The county representative's report was sent by email. Did people have any questions about what Dan wrote to us? Hesitating a minute for people to, a couple people are reading. Can you bullet point what he wrote about, Catherine?
Are we the foreclosures?
Yeah, that was one, yeah.
I don't know if that's.
Yeah, and part of it was unique natural area.
Mhm.
Is that-
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
So he gave the list of the foreclosures in the town. Attached this document with a map and info about the parcels, the parcel that's being foreclosed upon. There's one property that involves a portion of wetlands that the county, he says, will put a deed restriction on the wetlands portion of the property.
Right.
That's what I've got for that. Is there another section of his report, or that's all?
I think that
That's
was
the
it.
only attachment that I see.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay.
Good. All right. Great. Do we have any department, committee, or liaison updates?
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a body of the email. Do you want?
Go for
that
it.
Stated?
Yeah.
He was talking, so the Recovery Act funds, county legislature is continuing to debate, I knew there was something else, what to do with it. Whether or not they want to spend a specific amount each year or spend money as needs and projects arise. Debating whether they want to make a plan with specific categories, with specific dollar amounts. They're currently debating whether to require county employees to be vaccinated. Or if they are not, they would be required to get tested each week for COVID. The catch is that currently the federal government pays for all the COVID testing and the funding expires October 1. If it is not renewed, the county would need to pay for the testing. And the estimate is that the bill for this would be $1.5 million per year.
Ouch.
Yeah. Okay, and then, right, and then there was the foreclosure on the property on
Mhm.
Paddington Road with the map, so, but that was it.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Cool. All right, I'll open it up for any updates or reports from council members.
The zoning commission met last night. And the next meeting of the zoning commission should be August 24th at 7:30, which will be a hybrid meeting, both in the town hall and online, unless COVID events disrupt that. Regarding liaison to the court, I might just mention that it appears as of this afternoon that we have a date, September 30th, for a meeting between me and Mark, our two justices and our attorney and the attorney for the 6th district, and I believe Judge King. So that's going to happen. That'll be really helpful. I thought at least tonight we made a step forward. And it was helpful to know that I guess I've been insulting Judge Barr by calling her by her first name, which for me is a sign of respect for friends, but that's okay. So that was very helpful. I think that's it.
Thank you, Tim. Great. Anything else? All right, moving on. So
we've already taken care of the first item of business. So now I will open the discussion for, Tim has suggested we have a discussion of the process for ARPA, the use of our ARPA funds. And I'll just point out, I spent a few minutes today looking at it, and the thing that I think all of you know is that distinguishes us from the county is that the county has essentially a lot more latitude because they can demonstrate revenue losses from sales tax, but we don't, that doesn't apply to us. And the other sort of practical matter is that the county has a lot more administrative support. So those are two thoughts I had about that.
Rick, one of the things that I noticed in looking at it too, that apparently the county has heavier reporting requirements than we would have. So that's something I might just look into.
Yeah,
Yeah, somebody's gonna say, show us the numbers.
Because apparently they have to do the federal reporting and we're doing state, and according to the language of what I read, it's much less. So that could end up helping us make some decisions down the road, I guess.
yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so, you know, I guess I'll just start off by saying we've all, I think, you know, for infrastructure, there are three things: water, sewer, and broadband. And so only one of those applies to us. And I think we're all on board with that. So that's why I was especially interested in where this county study is going. And it could, you know, I just have never, I haven't seen the numbers. I want to see the numbers for what a middle mile, what a robust middle mile backbone would be. And would our ARPA funds across municipalities put a dent in that? If it would, maybe it's something that we should really think about.
Sure.
It sounds like the county has already sort of seen enough to pivot on that, and they're having discussions with the internet service providers, including Lee and Chuck Bartosh. So I'm not sure where all that's going. It's no doubt going to be a big discussion at this month's TCOG meeting. And so, but anyway, I think we're all bullish on applying these funds to finally getting complete broadband coverage in Caroline. And I sure would like to have a robust system that also, provided an affordable internet access for residents. It's expensive, so we'll see. And so, as I said, the county they're submitting this grant that includes Lee that would be some would build out to the unserved homes in Caroline and other towns nearby. And if that fails, I think that Lee may have another grant that would do the same thing. So I'm optimistic that one way or another, we're going to have some broadband hopes in the near future. So,
Can I ask you a question?
yes.
If you took broadband off the table for ARPA, what are some of the other?
Things we could do.
Great question.
So I perused the document and I didn't spend a lot of time at it. The three things that I could find that I thought could apply to us, one was eviction prevention. That's one thing. Well, the other thing is, so I'm not quite sure, But these impacts are all supposed to be subsequent to the passage of the bill, which was March 3rd of this year. So that's important to note. So one was eviction prevention. The other is parks or trails or things like that, because they are deemed to provide services and support the needs of those disproportionately affected. And then the last thing that I noticed was they do provide funding, and I guess this probably maybe does not use the March 3rd deadline, but for court backlog, you can use ARPA funds to support the court if they need assistance to address a backlog. So those are the three things that I could see that, and again, it wasn't a long study session, so there's no doubt other things too, so. Any other thoughts? Or, and Tim, I know you were talking about process is what you mentioned for tonight's discussion, so.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that I'd encourage us to keep thinking about is if we don't use all of the funds for broadband. It's just weird how all this broadband stuff is just kind of seems to be spinning out of control all of a sudden. Then I think we'd want to have a game plan in the back pocket, especially for the second round of funds, just so that we won't be caught totally off guard. And on the other end, and perhaps we'd want to do an immediate intervention for rent release. I mean, I think that that's really important. So maybe that's something we'd want to consider just doing up front, a certain small chunk of it to save our citizens tremendous pain and grief. That's
Can you say that again?
Maybe we'd want to do something like that right away. Because if we wait to provide people with rent release, they're going to be evicted. So if we were going to do that, I'd want to do something as soon as possible.
Do you know how the criteria for that would work, Tim?
No. I mean, obviously, all this requires so much more research and investigation. But I guess I'm just kind of thinking out loud, especially since Mark mentioned that.
John?
Build off that idea. I really like that idea. Broadband is.
John, you're very muffled for some reason.
Oh, okay. I'm working with a new monitor, and so things may be a little farther than typical.
I thought you had a shirt in your mouth.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's better, yeah.
Okay, sure, no worries. I can remember what I was going to say. That is building off Tim's idea. So I am all in on broadband because we've been trying to do this since before I stepped onto the board. But I agree that there are people with some immediate needs potentially, and I like the idea that Tim has of carving out some funding for that. I would also suggest a sort of an expansion of that idea. And I don't know if it's permitted under the parameters of these funds, but something along the lines of sort of an old school idea of a community chest or community fund for people in emergency situations. Certainly, we've seen this happen during the pandemic, but those things can happen at other times as well. And I don't know if that's too far outside of the lines, but I wanted to raise it.
I didn't catch all that, John.
He was talking about a community chest or community fund
Oh,
to.
Thank you.
Emergencies, you're welcome.
thank you. I don't know about that, but this certainly will be a discussion item amongst the supervisors at our meeting. We'll meet Monday, and I'm sure there'll be a discussion at the TCOG meeting, so, yeah.
And everything that I've read most of this stuff. It's just also ambiguous. So on the one hand, it says you can use it for this. Then you'll come across a line saying you're not able to give outright grants. It's just really confusing, and it's simple, and they've simplified it to make it clear, but I think we have a lot to learn still.
Yeah. I think there's a fundamental problem in that town government is not supposed to gift money. And so it, you know, everything you do has to be predicated on demonstrating impacts. And so then that drives up the administrative burden and all that. So yeah, the research is going to be key to figure out what we would have to do.
And somehow I just recommend that we try to do the research as soon as possible. In case we have the opportunity to take some of these earlier actions that would help people. You know, I mean, I've always maintained that I think that we need to do more for social services in the town, even though we don't have the funds to do it. So now we have some funds that maybe we could do it.
Great. Anyone else? I agree. We'll work on that, Tim. Yeah. Should we move along from that agenda item? Okay, so moving on. I drafted a quickie resolution to form a Town of Caroline Capital Planning Committee. I did speak with Bob because he's an obvious important player in that, and I think he's willing to be a part of that. And that said, this committee, you know, we've been talking about highway trucks for the last, you know, couple of years or whatever, but this would be broader than that. So looking at capital planning, you know, for the town as a whole. So it'd be a more comprehensive look at our budgetary needs over, you know, a 5 or 10 year span. So, and so I guess I'll make a motion to put that resolution forward. Is there a second? Seconded by Cal. So now I'll start the discussion again. I think, yeah, so, and you expressed interest in being a member of that, is that right, Catherine?
Sure.
Okay, or I thought you,
I'm not sure.
anyway, it's an offer.
I've been voluntold,
Okay.
yes.
Anyway.
Yep.
So, okay,
A couple questions, Mark.
go for it.
How many people were you looking at? Or thinking?
I think it would be a small group of 5 or 6 is what I was thinking, something like that. What are your thoughts?
I think that would probably be fine. And since you, you know, started the volunteering process, I would like to ask Barry and Cal to sit on that as well. Both come from a, you know, heavy machinery background, and I think it would be a good addition to that.
Okay.
They're not saying anything. I don't know if that means they accept it or.
Were we going to, were we going to consider non-board, Pacheberry, non-board members for that committee? Because if we, Bobby, if we followed your suggestion, it would be almost completely a board committee. And I thought that what we were trying to do is spread the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
There's no
Hopefully
reason for us to do this, though.
Yeah, kind of agree.
I mean, Bobby, I agree with you. I mean, like, I do not have heavy machinery experience, so if we're looking
Right.
for.
So, yeah, I mean,
No.
I guess that's what I'm saying is I don't,
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that I'm against any of this. I'm just saying I'm against having a whole group of people with no experience, you know, or
Sure.
mechanical background.
Absolutely.
You know, I agree with you, Tim. On one hand, I almost see it, if we have a whole bunch of board members, it is kind of, I mean, it's not that it's stacking the deck or anything, but it's, it is a committee to voice a, basically an opinion or, a strategy going forward. So, I would say that that's fine if we don't use a bunch of board members. And that leaves Barry.
Yeah, and
Barry would still be in the clear, seems how he's not a board member.
and the whole reason we thought about doing it, Bobby, was to take, some of the pressure off you, since you've been this whole thing has been loaded on your back. So-
Right. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, so. So you suggested Cal, is that right? So is that good with you, Cal, or?
I'll do my best, but some days I feel I got too many balls in the air.
Right, so, I mean, we don't have to decide tonight.
Right.
We can think about it or whatever. So I thought the first meeting wouldn't be until Thursday, maybe. No, I'm kidding. So yeah,
I guess maybe, I know some things are up in the air. And people's schedules may change a little bit with kind of some, current events, happening. Nobody knows where this COVID thing is going, or, I know we put it on the table tonight, but I don't think that it's anything that has to be done. If we can table it until next month, I don't know as if that would hurt anything. We can get the ball rolling, but we don't have to, get this committee around as early as Thursday or anything.
oh, of course not. I mean, I guess I was thinking about, we can do just like we did with our agriculture group, go ahead and form the committee and then fill out the membership later. Is what I was thinking. I don't see any reason not to do that, since we're definitely committed to having a capital planning effort group, whatever. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I'm
Okay.
suggesting, is not, necessarily picking it tonight and having a meeting this week, just.
Yeah, I was definitely kidding about that.
That's good, 'cause I'm not available tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, good.
Me either.
I have planning board.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and maybe we'll learn a little bit more about what's to come. So, that might make a few things easier.
I would be glad to serve on that committee if you would like me to do that.
That's good news.
Thanks, Barry. We'll send out a request for your resume tomorrow. But I appreciate that. So thanks, Barry.
Barry, I have a couple of other committees for you too.
Let's not get carried away.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks,
So
Barry.
I'm looking at the
You're welcome.
wording of the resolution. I think it still holds up. I think it's fine. So, so if there's no further discussion, I'll just go ahead and call for a vote for the formation of this capital planning committee.
Yeah.
All good. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you. So unanimous.
I think John Fraser has a resolution he'd like to introduce.
I can wait till the end of the other business.
I can't hear you very well. Do you want us to read it, John?
No, I was going to say I can wait till the end of our agenda and then introduce it. It's related to the court grants.
I thought we were doing resolutions right now.
Yep. So I'll offer a resolution for the following budget transfers. $1,000 from A 5132.2 garage equipment to A 5132 supposed to be 4 garage contractual. 2,000 from DA 5112.1 improvements personnel services to DA 5110.1 general personnel services, and 1,500 from DA 5112.1 improvements personal services to DA 5110.11 general personal services overtime. Do I have a second? Catherine got it. And any questions? Good, because I can't really
What did you just say?
answer anything beyond, I'm just trying to make the lines go into the black, so. This is pure, pure accounting stuff, so. With that, I'll call for a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. All right, with that, I'll offer a resolution to pay the town bills in the amounts, A fund of $15,456.22. The DA fund $111,503.36, and the streetlight fund $174.91. Seconded by Cal. And
I just wanted to say there might be just a slight revision. I'm still waiting for NICEAG bill for the streetlight fund,
the Constellation bill?
Constellation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
and NICEAG for the general,
okay,
those two. So
great. Great, yeah, and we should definitely fold those in and get them paid.
Yeah.
And then I think there was,
And Jesse, I flagged a couple of things, just some very minor discrepancies. I don't know if you saw it.
I did see it. It was for the Cook Brothers invoice, I think.
I don't remember exactly who it was, but as long as you saw it, I used red sticky things.
Yep, I got them.
I think we got them all figured out, Tim.
Good.
Let's see, there's. Oh, good, somebody initialed those. Two somebody's did. Yeah, so I think we're all good. We haven't voted on that yet, right? So all in favor of paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank goodness. Great. Who was the second on that?
Cal.
Cal? Okay. Thank you. And are there any comments to offer on the minutes of August 3rd?
No.
None? Okay. The August 3rd minutes are thereby approved. Thank you, Jesse. Great. Okay. Any other items? I think I'm through the agenda, which surprises me, but
I do have another item, Mark.
okay.
So completing our discussion with the court, it seemed like we were at consensus that we wish to support their request. So while we were meeting, I drafted up the resolution, which I've sent to everyone on the board and the clerk. And since we're here and it is somewhat time sensitive, I'd like to ask us to consider it this evening.
So John, I mean, I guess, is it time sensitive? I mean, do we have a resolution in front of us or?
You do?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Right there.
yeah,
It's a very, very simple one.
okay, so. I mean, I felt like we should line it up for next month, but if you feel like we should do it tonight, I guess. I really don't think it's time sensitive, as I reported to you earlier. But if you, I can imagine that you feel like this would be a measure of good faith or whatever.
Well, I offered a motion. Let's start with, do I have a second? And then we could go from there.
Okay, so do we have a second from John's motion?
I'll second.
I think Cal beat that one.
Yeah, it was close.
Okay,
Okay.
so
You have, I mean, yeah, I don't see a, well, we'll just move forward. with it.
do you want to speak, John? About it?
I think, again, as I said, I think we have a better understanding of what the grant is about, what the need is. And I can't see any real reason to hold it to September where we'd offer the exact same resolution, but hold up their application process by a couple of weeks. It doesn't make sense to me.
I thought there was a question still to be resolved that Judge Barr was going to clarify with the court system about the cost sharing provision for the grant, given that this is a shared space. And I also, you know, it's a minor point, but I think that the small conference room should be designated as such. So those are my 2 points. I had some other, Judge Barr didn't seem to think that this had any utility for the rest of the town. I don't understand that, because we put in a very cheap, monitoring system at the town office building. But we, had talked about having something, if we're gonna have these cameras up and this infrastructure in place, it seems like it makes sense to be using it. I don't know, am I missing something?
Yes, I think you are, Mark. I'm speaking loud so you can hear me, not because I'm angry, but I realize it may come across that way. So I wanted to clarify in the front end of my comments. I think, so a couple of things. I agree there is potentially an unresolved issue with the space, but I don't know that that precludes us from authorizing moving forward with the project. Certainly Judge Barr can get back with us on that, and if that requires a revision to the amount, I think that's okay. She said in her comments that she's willing to rename the conference room, so I think that's not really a contested issue. And the final thing that you're talking about, linking the systems, again, I don't know that we have to have that detail resolved to agree that we want to move forward on having a security system, right? That seems more like a logistical issue than a authorization issue. So I would advocate that, in fact, we do move forward with this tonight.
Could I offer a friendly amendment, John?
Absolutely.
That therefore the town of the Caroline Town Council authorizes the town of Caroline Court to work with the supervisor to apply for JCAP grants in the cycle, because it has to be done with the supervisor. Would that be problematic to you? You hear what I'm just trying to?
I do. I don't think it's not problematic to me personally, or in my role as a council member. What I don't know is, because this language comes from JCAP and it's awarded to courts, I don't know if that would be viewed differently.
I see what you're saying.
It may be fine. I just don't know.
Right. Well, the supervisor has to sign off it.
That's
on it.
correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Tim.
I guess my feeling about it, and again, I wasn't here last time, so I might have missed some things, but it doesn't seem like, I think it's becoming overcomplicated. Like, it just sounds to me like it's a security system, it's best practice. There's all this noise because there's noise, and the noise has nothing to do with this particular thing. And I think we need to really pick our battles with this, and this is not a battle I would pick. Like, let's just move forward.
I mean, Catherine, I think the only question that we had to resolve was for the success of the grant, how to articulate shared space. So that was an unresolved fact.
Well,
I don't think it had
I hear
anything to-
that, but I guess I'm confused because it seems like the way to ensure success of the grant, according to Judge Barr, was to not worry about the shared space, and because it's a court project. I mean, I'm just going based on what I heard from her. If it's a
Well,
court,
if she wants to do that and apply for the grant that way, I'm personally fine with it. If they don't get it, they don't get it. If they don't get it and it's applied for that way and that figures into why they don't get it, then I'm not crazy about spending town funds.
right, I mean, I'm right. I think we're in, is that an option that we don't involve ourselves with it? With cost sharing at all, that it's, they apply, it's a court project, if they get it, they get it.
That's how it's currently
That's
structured.
right, so.
That's how it's currently structured.
And then they put it in, but
What?
if they apply for the grant, they get the grant and then
Like,
it's
why are
put
we,
in.
right, why are we involved in it really at all?
But if they apply for the grant and they don't get the grant, then it doesn't get put in.
The system,
Yeah.
yeah, right?
Right,
So
So,
like we're
but-
stuck for,
right. So
No,
that's.
there seemed to be some confusion that we just needed to clarify about whether it needed to be an application, a joint application with town cost share or not. If Judge Barr feels that that's not the case,
Right.
That's right.
And I will-
then let's
That's
just
your
let them
judgment.
solve it for it.
To say, it sounds like we might be getting near consensus, or at least ready to vote,
Yeah.
perhaps.
John, what about instead of having a specific amount, just a grant cycle for the maximum amount? I mean, if she can get, if Judge Barr can get more than $11,973.
Right, so we,
I'm okay with that. I believe the maximum amount is 30,000. I'm fine with it. I just tend to be, what the number is what the number is, but I have no objection to that. If we want to
So-
amend it to reflect that.
The point of clarification, so what you gave us tonight is the language that's stipulated that we are supposed to use, right?
Mainly the therefore, I added some whereases so that there would be clarity of why we came to this, but yes.
Because what I remember in Judge Barr's email was, it has to be exactly this or this,
Right.
period.
And the where, and the therefore is one of those two things. And it does say in the document that you can add whereases.
And then just to clarify on the cost sharing, that the court system said, that, this is how it works. It's not a matter of angling for maximum funds or anything like that. It's this is what they want to know. And, they need to know that it's a shared space. And that was not evident from the materials I saw. So, the information was provided to strengthen their application to make it legitimate and stand up, so. I frankly would, advocate, I think I'm in the vast minority that we were provided with the grant in order to evaluate it, to authorize me to sign the application, which I have to do. To me, it makes sense to, let's clarify this question. And, revise the grant and put it forward and authorize the supervisor to sign it. But
Mark, I hate to do this, but I'm going to. I'm going to call the question.
That's fine. Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great,
Opposed?
great. Aye.
I hope that this doesn't mean that there's not going to be a continued discussion about this between Judge Barr and the supervisor, because all of these points aren't totally clear.
Exactly. I voted my conscience, but I will support, of course, the application and work with Judge Barr to get it in as soon as we can, so. But I just feel like, anyway, I had to stick to what I thought as far as the right process, so. I will point out, well,
Yep.
anyway, never mind. We have articulated before that resolutions would be provided in advance on the meeting announcement and stuff, so we violated that as well, so. All right. Any other things for tonight's agenda? Great. All right, with no further ado, I'll call
Hey,
for
Mark.
Jerry. Oh, Bob?
I just had one, quick one, and Cal can let me know if this needs to go any farther or not, but any word from Edie, Cal?
Yeah, I mean, just, what is the town? Do we want to evaluate that site?
So,
The owner would want to know, what would an evaluation entail? If we came to that.
I'd just like to bring, I don't know if everybody knows. I know John knows. And I don't mean to step on any toes, John, or anything like that. I just wanted to bring it up. I think it may also be a little time sensitive. Maybe not extremely, but we have a feasibility study with LaBerge, to look at two current sites that we currently own. When we approached them, it was two sites with a possible third. The numbers were all put out there. The only thing that wasn't put out was a potential third site. There is a potential third site. That site being next to the Brooktondale Fire Hall. And I would like to see that added to the LaBerge study. I don't necessarily think this is going to cost us anymore. We told them that there would possibly be 3 sites. And I think, as far as the study, I think we owe, we owe the town the best possible site to spend this amount of money. Going forward, I don't want to see us put something up on a piece of land simply because we already own it. I don't think that would be the right thing to do. And if the site turns out to be terrible, then we don't go with that site, but leave it up to them, to decide that.
Which property are we talking about?
It's somewhere near the fire hall, Brooktondale Fire Hall.
Where Brookdale Fire Hall is, there's an open hayfield on this
Oh, to the
side.
left, well, as you're looking at it, to the left.
Yeah, if you're going towards Brookdale.
Right.
Just before you get to the fire hall, there's a.
Right.
There's.
So,
Hey, Bobby, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Am I understanding that, it would seem to me that even if there were a third site under consideration, there would still be a need to consider pluses and minuses for all sites. Let's say hypothetically, there was a third site and it was an ideal site, but the town didn't own it and the town had its own sites that the engineers had presented as feasible. I mean, it would just seem to me that that would be one of the things that the board would then want to take into consideration, right? Is that contrary to your thinking?
Yeah, I believe so. I think just simply asking to look at it. That's it. Let them take a look, decide if it's, worth it or not.
But no, but what I was asking, just trying to go down, I mean, this might just be too hypothetical. But let's say hypothetically that they look at a third site, they really, really like the third site. Maybe the current sites could be okay. Does their endorsing a third site necessarily prescribe, in your mind, moving to that third site, or is there room for dialogue and discussion about the pros and cons of the sites? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding it correct, I mean, I'm not saying this is a set in stone thing. It's just we have to identify the site. I mean, that's it. It's just a simple identification of this is a possible third site. It's no more than that. These guys are, we've paid them to do a job. They're ready to do their job, and they can't do it if we just leave it as unknown third site.
Bobby, I'm going to weigh in.
Sure.
So to clarify all aspects of the contract, the third site is covered under our current agreement. When I followed up with LaBerge, they informed me that they were waiting on a possible third site, and that's when it came to my attention that the site might be actually available. This was 2 days ago, so I haven't had a lot of time to even begin to think about how do we explore that. That would be the next phase, but there would be nothing to preclude us from evaluating a third site. In answer to your question, Tim, the report is advisory rather. And that's what we'd have to look at. We would have to weigh the pros and cons. If one site is really strong and another is okay, what are the trade-offs, right? But that is several steps down the road and probably after I'm gone. So perhaps that clarifies some things.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to get a sense of how this would work. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
Sorry.
Jesse?
Yeah, just for clarification for me, is Labarge, well, at the end of the day, Labarge is just giving a recommendation, or if they're deciding what's the best site and
An evaluation, I would say.
an
Yes,
evaluation?
yes, that's correct, Mark.
Okay, all right.
Question?
No, I said good question.
Bob, I will, we've discussed this, and I very much appreciated the site visit. It was really constructive. And what I heard from at least one of the engineers, the architect there, was that he strongly recommended that we first really take a serious look at the two properties that we own. I know that you have a different take on that, but that's what he recommended at the time, and he was quite, I would say enthusiastic about the Perkins Road site. So-
Mark? Just to clarify, I wasn't there for that part of the tour, but I can tell you in writing, the Verge is currently saying something different than that. So I don't know if they've had some time to run some preliminary numbers, but they are certainly advising us at this point that if we have a third site, we should absolutely look at it.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's good to know.
And again, this is simply take a look. I mean, that's it.
Sure.
Well, there's just the logistics of, what does taking a look mean? I mean, does it mean we have to engage the landowner and their representative? Or do we just kind of say, well, there's been some expressed interest, and it becomes a lot more complicated, I think, because we're moving to a new property, then there's the old properties and, sales but, this is part of the whole, the complexity of having a professional engineer make assessments and recommendations. But I think the owner of the site, a potential site next to the volunteer fire company would like to know, well, if this site is going to be evaluated, what does that entail?
Al, I think we should get the committee together to talk about this before we have too much more discussion about it
Okay.
strategically.
John, can I just make a friendly request that
Sure.
if you receive updates from LaBerge, I think it would just be helpful if the board could hear about that and the committee reports, because it just gives us a better context of how to think about all this instead of hearing about it kind of at the end of the meeting. That'd be really helpful.
Well, I hear that, Tim, but to be honest, I wasn't ready yet to do that because I didn't feel I had all the information to do that. And I wanted to avoid a discussion where I wasn't prepared with some of the answers I would have hoped to have had.
So are we making a decision on directing LaBerge here right now? Do we need to do that?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. Okay.
It's really great to hear about these options and to get this context. So thank you for bringing it up, Bobby.
Anything else for tonight's agenda? Okay. Drum roll. I'm gonna call for adjournment.
Second.
Seconded by Tim right off the bat. So, okay. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Great. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.